Just letting you guys know you can listen to my No Bleeps podcast anywhere you stream podcasts or on my No Bleeps YouTube channel. Link in the description. Hey guys, it's Spilly and welcome back to Spill Sesh. Today we are going to be talking about Ryland Adams because he's found himself into some more drama and he is discussing some of this drama on his podcast called The Sip, and he also is announcing that he is releasing merchandise for his podcast. So his entire podcast is about him and his co-host Lizzie talking about hot topics. And it's called The Sip, and it's very like tea spilling oriented. And so the things that he's talking about is celebrity news and influencer news. And recently he has found himself in some hot topics. He has found himself getting talked about quite a bit because of this Trisha, Jeffree, Shane drama, and he spoke out on him and Shane's behalf. And so obviously that was going to cause some drama. And now that he has found himself in some drama, that he has this show that he's doing where he's talking about celebrity news and influencer news, and he's like, well, I realize that I don't want to get talked about, so we're gonna just change this entire show and we're gonna just be straight up positivity now. And he has rebranded the channel and it's like no longer like the tea banner anymore. And I feel like this rebrand also has to do with the merchandise because it matches the merchandise quite a bit. But it's funny because the merchandise does very much go along with the theme of tea spilling. I mean, there's like a little tea bag on the front of the hoodie, there's a mug, and there's a tea bag on the mug. And the merchandise says, and that's the sip, which is basically, and that's the tea. And they're not going to be giving the tea anymore. So that's very interesting. I know that merchandise is made ahead of time. So this was probably created before the drama even happened between Trisha and Jeffree and Shane and Ryland got involved. But it's all very interesting, and people are just kind of like, well, what did you think was going to happen when you were making a podcast about tea and hot topics and internet news and celebrity news, and you and your fiance work on the internet and are friends with literally some of the most problematic people on the internet? But because of all of this, Ryland has decided that he no longer wants to have involvement in any of that stuff. And he goes into more details about it on the podcast. And he says that he's been having a moral dilemma about the show in his life. And he says this right before they get into the hot topic segment of their show. And he says he feels he's come a long way based on a bunch of different things. And he says that he took a really good look in the mirror to see the direction his life was going in and where he wants it to go. And he says that he feels like he has been trying to live out this childhood dream of his, that he's always wanted to have a morning show, and that's kind of what he set out to do when he started this podcast. And he's basically saying that he wanted this to be like a celebrity news show, but when he takes a step back and looks at it, YouTube just isn't the place for hot topics on celebrities. And honestly, this I'm a little confused about because he was working on Clever News prior to him being a YouTuber of his own. And Clever is a YouTube news show. So people do talk about news and celebrity news and hot topics on YouTube. But anyways, he says that YouTube isn't the platform for them because if they are going to talk about hot topics, the hot topics on YouTube are what's going on in the community. And in the community of YouTube, when you're talking about hot topics, it would be drama, which he says is essentially a drama channel, and he never wanted to do that. And he says that he doesn't know if talking about celebrities is any better. He says that he sees the hypocrisy in it because Shane and him have that happen to them and he doesn't like it, yet he sits and talks about other people's lives. And he basically says like he doesn't think him and Lizzie are very mean and that they're very careful about the topics that they choose. A lot of people have honestly been a little confused at the theme, and I think that's why he also really needed to address it, because people are just like, how are you going to call this a news and hot topics show when you're not going to really be addressing hot topics, especially when you're involved in them. And so I think that's why he's deciding to make this big change, and also make it clear to people that he is going to be selective. But obviously it was very confusing before, because when you have people like Jeffree Star come on, there's always a lot of drama surrounding Jeffree Star. And this might not be a drama channel specifically, but you do have a YouTube channel for your podcast, and the theme of the tea spilling, the sipping, the podcast is very much talking about everything that's going on in pop culture and celebrity influencer, all this stuff. You're interviewing people that are problematic. You're having them address drama on your show, like when you had Jeffree call in about the Kanye thing. Someone in the comments said, "I love them and this podcast, but I did snicker when he said I didn't set out for this to be a drama channel, yet the podcast is called The Sip." Ryland does say he's not saying they're not going to stop talking about pop culture, but this revelation has him thinking a little bit more carefully about the topics that they do choose to talk about. He said he doesn't want to speculate and accuse people of things. He says it's not a morning talk show, it's a podcast, and he just wants to have fun. Ryland says that he basically just wanted to fulfill this like fantasy of a career path that he had for himself in this morning show, but he just needs to focus on it as a podcast. And he also gives an update on Shane. He says that Shane has been off the internet for quite some time now, and he's the most stable he's ever been throughout their relationship. And he says that he wants to get there and he doesn't want to leave the internet to do that. He just wants to attract positivity and put that out there. And they're gonna start doing that on their podcast. Shane did come out on Instagram on his stories to show support to Ryland and Lizzie on the launch of their merchandise. This is like the first time that he's posted on his Instagram stories since the entire Jeffree Trisha drama with himself. He said, "Proud of you, Ryland and at Lizzie Gordon," and then was showing off the cup, which in terms of the merchandise and how it's being made, we're gonna get to in a minute. But on the podcast, Ryland continued on by saying that his life was basically telling him he needed to evolve the podcast into something that was going to spread positivity and not be like hot topics. So this is all very interesting. I mean, it's obviously good for him to recognize that people were definitely confused, because it seemed like he was a drama channel, but he didn't want to address certain dramas and didn't really want to address the fact that Jeffree, one of his close friends, is in drama all the time. And obviously him and Shane are choosing to stand by Jeffree and stay friends with Jeffree through all of the drama, and by him not addressing that and acknowledging that, then people are going to question him and his whole podcast and the whole theme of everything. And so I think he's just like, well, we just can't talk about stuff like that, period, now, because then it puts my whole show in question. It's definitely good for him to clear up what his new goals are for the podcast and the direction that he is taking. The merch, obviously a little confusing, although people did notice that the merchandise does happen to be on the one and only killer merch website, which is Jeffree Star's merch company, and just another way for them to kind of show that they are supporting Jeffree Star still, to which some people are like, okay, I don't really know about that one, you guys. I don't really know. Seems kind of problematic. And for saying that he doesn't want to be involved in drama, it definitely adds him into drama by working with Jeffree Star, aligning with Jeffree Star, supporting Jeffree Star, all of that, because Jeffree Star is obviously very problematic and has a lot of drama, and he's intertwined with Shane now and Ryland, and they, you know, have obviously sided with him over Trisha Paytas, and that was a very big deal. And they're also contractually bound to Jeffree because they're working with him on their merchandise, so they're literally profiting from working together. And so it's not like Ryland and Shane can just like walk away from him very easily. It doesn't even seem like they would like to walk away from Jeffree, even though there's obvious rumors that Shane wanted to leave Jeffree in the dust and all that stuff, but it's not something that they can really talk about because I'm sure there's also NDAs and all that stuff. And he's also saying he doesn't want to talk about it, which just conflicts with his whole brand. This whole thing is just very interesting to me. I think Ryland has always been very into news and hot topics and all of this stuff. I mean, even his merchandise from way back when has like a teacup on it. So I think his whole thing that he really loves news and everything, like that's his brand because he used to report on news all the time. And now that he's involved in it, it's a little different for him. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye guys. I love you.